How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the 1IQ Sports Talk YouTube channel. I'm Brendan, and today we are going to be talking about week number 4, the Chicago Bears game review, where they ended up beating the Los Angeles Rams at home by a score of 24-18. Now, I wasn't able to watch this game live, but I did re-watch the entirety of the game while mostly because I was working, and I did know the final score before I actually watched the game, which I think was actually kind of nice to almost do it that way, because you can almost look at it in a sense of you don't really necessarily need to worry. I'm not going to be doing that every single week. I'll tell you that one. Of course, I want to watch the game live. I just couldn't, mostly because I was working. But um, straight away, this to me felt like the best team win we've seen from the Bears, without a doubt, this year. Because again, the Titans win was not a team win; that was the defense and special teams. This was one of those games where I would have to go back and look last year, but this was just a full team win. It was just good on all phases of the ball. You slowed the Rams offense down as best you could. Again, you're going up against Matthew Stafford. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the game right now, and him and Sean McVay, they have a very good connection. Granted, we will say that, Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp were not out there, so, but you can't really complain of, like, you play who you play, and that's what we saw from this Rams team. They played with the players that they ultimately had here at the moment, and right now, they held Matthew Stafford to a pretty relatively quiet game. 224 yards, no TDs, and an interception, and they got after him for 3 sacks in this game. 20 for 29. Bears were able to absolutely, they were effective against a pretty solid quarterback. Kyren Williams, 19 carries for 94 yards. So, I guess before we talk about the offense, I'll talk about the defense. These last 2 weeks, I will say, I think the defense still has been good, but it hasn't been as good as I would have wanted them to be. I maybe was expecting potentially a little bit more. Uh, you know, this defense last year, they just, and when I say the final 8 weeks of the year, they were really a tough unit to go up and play against. They're still a really tough unit, and again, this is mostly just me being nitpicky about it. I would like to see the run defense get a little bit better. This is 2 weeks in a row where we've seen running backs on the opposite side get close to or above 100 yards on the ground. I would like to see that getting tightened up again. Jonathan Taylor, he's one of the best backs in the game. Kyren Williams, he's one of the more underrated backs or young running backs in the game. And in a, Sean McVay offense, he's still really talented, and he's going to get his touches. But other than that, Tutu Atwell had 4 catches for 82 yards. I would like to potentially see the secondary do a little bit better at shutting down some of these kind of bigger name or just wide receivers. Again, these aren't necessarily bigger names, but I would have potentially been a lot more worried with this game if, for instance, Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp were both out there, because we saw what Matthew Stafford and the Rams were capable of doing when they weren't. So it, to me, there was, there's definitely some concerns. Tutu, former second round pick, I believe it was 2021, but I'm still looking at it going, I would have liked to see a little bit better run defense and maybe a little bit better pass defense as well. Again, I'm being very nitpicky. I still think the defense played a very good game. They stopped the Rams when they needed to stop. They were the definition of bend but don't break. They got put into situations where the Rams offense was capable of moving the ball. And when you go up against one of the best offensive minded head coaches in the league and one of the best play callers in the NFL, like you're going to have to kind of take some of these lumps. So ultimately, the defense really just kind of stopped him. Again, the Kyren Williams did have just the lone touchdown during the game, but overall, Jaquan Brisker, what a day by him. Realistically, should have had 2 interceptions on this game. for Jaquan Brisker. I understand that, oh, he was an ineligible player because he didn't get both feet in there. That's just one of those rules that I don't think anyone really likes. The only time you are okay with it is when what happened. Jaquan Brisker, he got 1 foot back in bounds when him and I forget, it might have been Tutu Atwell, were both kind of running together and they were trying to get the ball, but they were both running with each other and they managed to go out of bounds. And Jaquan Brisker turned around, got 1 foot back in, then jumped up in the air, caught the pass, and ultimately didn't reestablish himself. And it's a rule I don't really love, but I guess we just kind of ultimately got to accept it, and that's the way it was. But Jaquan Brisker, he did get his interception, ultimately the one that sealed the game, and just a phenomenal interception by him. Just again, him just having a phenomenal day on the defensive side of the ball. Then obviously also getting a sack there as well. That's pretty big, and he got a big crunching sack there. Montez Sweat gets his second sack of the year. I want to see him potentially get a little bit more. I'm not necessarily saying that I expect him to be a 20 sack getter, lead the league, but I'm hoping double digits. I'm hoping essentially that he can just be a 12 sack per year type guy. We're certainly paying him to kind of be a top edge rusher in the league. But Trevon Dexter, man, this was another guy that just had himself a very good game, and he's just had himself a phenomenal year all across the board. He's got his third sack of the season, and he was constantly pressuring up through the middle. Trevon Dexter, we always talked about throughout the offseason of going, we really want to see this guy take that next step. And we are definitely seeing him take that next step. Austin Booker, the rookie, making his presence a little bit more felt. The kind of annoying thing is that we're still kind of looking for that edge rusher opposite of Montez Sweat, because DeMarcus Walker, he's not really doing much. It's pretty much the Trevon Dexter and Montez Sweat show, and you just kind of hope with Austin Booker that he can continue to develop. I'm hoping that he can get 4 or 5 sacks this season, opposite of Montez. Darrell Taylor, again, he had a pass deflection. He got to the quarterback once, but didn't get the actual sack. So, you're just kind of hoping for a few things. But ultimately, again, I'm being very nitpicky with the defense because I kind of want them to be better than what I saw. But ultimately, the defense played a really good game. Tory Taylor, man, this was... We knew drafting a punter in the 4th round was always going to be kind of a little bit of a head scratcher. But this kid, man... even though he's 27 years old, him and I are the exact same age, he is just destroying these punts. Like, he is an absolute game changer from the punting position. 5 punts, averaged of 55.4, total of 277 yards, had a 66-yard bomb that just completely swapped the field. That's why you drafted him. And I went into the draft process last year saying I would love for the Bears to draft Tory Taylor. Punter is not necessarily that big of a weapon that the Bears are ultimately going to need to go out there and get, but this is really a situation where you're just looking at him going, yeah, we get it. We understand the 4th round pick because he is changing what is happening on the field for the Bears. He's putting the Bears, who end the drive at the 30, and putting the opposing teams at their own 20. Like, he's completely flipping the field and putting our defense in a great spot. And that's, you genuinely can't ask for anything better from the punter. And he's doing an absolutely great job. And if he keeps going like this, he could genuinely be a Pro Bowl level punter as a rookie. He has been playing that well. But yeah, now to get over to the kind of more meat and potatoes side of things for the Bears offense. And if you watched the podcast this week, I highly recommend you do leave a link down in the description if you haven't. But yeah, we talked about how we could fix this Bears offense. Last week, I know when I made the video, I was pretty down on this Bears offense because they had so many things go wrong. And, whether it was the offensive line, the running game, the coaching staff, there was just a lot of stuff that I wasn't happy with. I was thrilled with Caleb Williams and the receivers of Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and Cole Kmet. Like, I don't think any of those guys disappointed me whatsoever. They over exceeded. But this week, I really liked what I saw. I thought Shane Waldron did a much better job with the play calling. I don't think he was perfect by any means. He needs to continue this. Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, he needs to look at what the offense did this week and go, we need to continue what we did. And the big thing is that the Bears running game started to get going. DeAndre Swift had himself a phenomenal day on the ground, and so did Roschon Johnson. Roschon Johnson got his carries. I would like to see him get a little bit more carries. I'm a big fan of Roschon Johnson, both getting a rushing touchdown, but it's you had stuff that was starting to work. You're running a lot of that 12 personnel, which again, in the podcast, highly recommend you go watch it. That is one of the things that I was pounding the table to go and do. And you're just setting yourself up for some really, really good position. You're putting yourself in a really good position for this offense. But the other big thing was they started to use DeAndre Swift in the passing game, which is what the Bears brought him in to do from the first place. And when I saw the signing of DeAndre Swift, I was going, okay, he's probably going to be a little bit worse this year in terms of the running game, because going from the Eagles offensive line to the Bears offensive line, and this was when I still thought the Bears offensive line was going to be somewhat decent this season as opposed to what they are, which is something that I will talk about here in a little bit. I just ultimately, I knew the running game wasn't going to be as strong that he had from last year, but the passing game and the receiving game, where he was going to be a weapon out of the backfield, which was something that I was very excited to see that we could potentially have from DeAndre Swift. And this is the exact thing that we wanted to see him come out and do, which was be a weapon in the run game, but also be a massive weapon in the receiving game. 77 or 72 yards on, and he had a long catch of 27, but off of 7 catches, all 7 targets were catches. That's what you want to see, is get him out there and just allow him to use that just phenomenal instincts in open space to move around. And he had almost like a Matt Forte game. Like, Bears fans that, go back all the way to that Matt Forte era, this was a very Matt Forte Bears type game. We saw this a lot with him, where he was effective on the ground, he found the open space and he got the ball there, but he also caught the ball out of the backfield. And he definitely gave me a lot of Matt Forte vibes with this one, and you want to continue to see that. I don't want to see the Bears abandon what they did. You need to continue to do that. Caleb, I think, looked pretty efficient and good in this game as well. He did a lot of things that I think a lot of rookie quarterbacks really struggle with, and it takes a while for quarterbacks to really get used to in the NFL, which is just taking what's open and taking what the defense gives you. You see a pass where, for instance, to DeAndre Swift, you throw him the ball, you're going, okay, I'll take 6 yards. You take 6 yards. And, if you can have a situation where you get it and go, the worst that it's going to be here is 6 yards, but the best it can be here is a touchdown or a big gain, that's ideal. You don't give up negative plays. And Bill Belichick talked about it kind of, I think it was either week 1 or it was during the preseason, where he said one of the best things about Tom Brady is he never had negative plays, or very rarely had negative plays. And in this game, I would say I don't think Caleb had many negative plays. This was a very clean game, no turnovers for Caleb in this one. He did have the one fumble, but it was ultimately recovered. Other than that, there was a few throws I think he would want back. I think we're going to be saying that every single week throughout this rookie season, because he's a rookie. That, we do need to have that if going. He's probably going to want a few throws back every single week. But this was one of those weeks where I didn't see any massive overthrows, kind of like what we saw through the first 3 games of the season, where it's like, wow, he really airmailed that one. Like that was a bad miss, or like they just clearly weren't on the same page. I didn't really see a lot of those. I think very efficient game. This was a true pros game. Not a lot of yards, only the buck 7 or buck 57, and it was it was just a clean game. He got the touchdown to DJ Moore, which was a beautiful throw. If you didn't see the touchdown pass, like that was an absolute dot, an absolute dime. I highly recommend you go watch that throw because it really was a thing of beauty. The offensive line still struggled, gave up the 3 sacks on the game, and Caleb was still continuously pressured. It was better, but it's kind of like painting a trash can gold. It's technically better looking, but it's still a trash can. And I really hate to say it, but when Tevin Jenkins went down, and Tevin Jenkins is my favorite player on that offensive line. I've loved Tevin Jenkins when he was drafted. I was super excited. I thought he was going to be our right tackle alongside Charles Leno Jr. back in the day, and then the Bears staff, that was Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, were like, we're gonna put you as our left tackle as a rookie. And I didn't fully understand a lot of those moves, and he's had tough situations due to injuries and just trying to ultimately go, because then he was a right guard, or he was a left tackle, then he was a right guard, then he moved over to the left guard last year, where I thought he was a pro bowler. And this year he's just looked confused, man. He's just looked a little bit confused out there. And I don't love saying this because, again, like I said, I really do like Tevin Jenkins. When he was out, I think the offensive line looked better. I really do. And that to me is one of the most annoying things, because I don't want the offensive line to look better with him out. I want the line to look great with him there. And it's really coming to a point now of where it almost feels like the Bears need a left tackle, a left guard, a center, and a right guard. Darnell Wright, I'm not concerned with. He's a young tackle. Is he having a little bit of a sophomore slump? Yeah, but I'm not worried about him. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be a very good right tackle in the NFL for a lot of years for the Chicago Bears team. He's going to be the anchor that's going to kind of be built around for these next couple of years with the offensive line. But it's really a situation where I think right now, again, Tevin Jenkins hurt. Can't really have that, because that's been one of the biggest issues why they didn't give him a contract extension this offseason, was his ability to stay healthy. And I don't know how long it is. Hopefully it's short, and I really hope it's one of those things where he's back out there next week and he gets back to that Pro Bowl level. But it was, the offensive line still needs to be much improved. But from week 3 to week 4, we're continuing to see the offense get better and better, and we're seeing Caleb get better and better and better. And again, we talk about him going from the 360 whatever he threw, I think it was 363 in week 3 to only 157. I'm fine with that. 17 for 23. The efficiency was there. He's taking what was given to him. He's not doing it all himself. And to me, that is one of the best things that I can see from this team. And again, this was a team that I didn't think they were going to win this game. I thought they were going to go 1-3. I was genuinely really concerned about the rest of the season. Go back and watch that video last week, because you can pretty much just see how discouraged I was with this Bears squad, and I wasn't really happy with what they were doing. But this week, I was, without a doubt, a lot more happy with what I saw. Still a lot of work to do. And you're gonna need to do a lot more in this league if you want to be truly successful. And I need to see more from Shane Waldron. I really do. I don't think this week hurt him. If it did make him look a little bit better for sure, but he needs to continue this trend if I think both Eberflus and him are going to have a job at the end of the year. And like I said, if you fire Shane Waldron at the end of the year, you might as well fire Matt Eberflus. Granted, depending on record, but if the Bears win 10 games this year, they're not going to fire either of those guys. Yeah. So improvement on the offense. The defense, I again nitpicky. I potentially like a little bit more, and special teams. Tory Taylor looks absolutely fantastic, and it's hard to feel down about this team after this week because it was just a all in all good team victory. But that is all for me here today. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to comment on the videos as it all really helps out. But till next time, I'm Brendan saying peace.